You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
In the 14th century, the Black Death arrived in Europe. This was the first huge outbreak of the germ called Yersinia pestis, or what we commonly call bubonic plague now. The Black Death specifically refers to the huge loss of life that happened in the 14th century. Across the entire planet, 25% of the population died. In London during that outbreak, it was higher. It was actually more like 50% of the population. After that particular wave died down, however, bubonic plague was endemic to the European population as a whole, and it would come back every few years. This would be true across the world into the 19th century. Frankly, there's nothing that you can do about the bubonic plague unless you have antimicrobials and antibiotics. And so serious was the plague that this was one of the first things that people attempted to do once germ theory was invented in the 19th century. They knew they had to get rid of plague. Pesthouse Close is a part of a story about how people try to manage the plague in a world that doesn't know that germs exist. In the early modern period, people did know that infection was a thing. They had a conception known as contagion. They knew that if someone was sick, they could get other people sick. They didn't know that it was necessarily germs that were doing it. They thought that it might be what they called miasma, or bad smells or bad air that would surround a sick person and then get someone else sick. When this happened, as it subsequently did, sometimes people would be taken to what is called a pest house, which is essentially a quarantine area. Pesthouse Close was built in 1593 to deal with various outbreaks at the time. So if someone in your family got sick, you could take them there. You knew that they would be looked after, and you would also have the peace of mind of knowing that they weren't getting other people sick in your area. But, as I said, nothing could actually be done for sick people at the time who caught the plague. So lots of people died within the pest house. The quarantine did help to control things up until about 1665 and 1666, when there was a huge outbreak in London, and that's the 17th century plague more specifically. It was extraordinarily deadly and again killed about 50% of the London population. But Pest House Close is from before that time. We also know that very nearby is a huge cemetery that essentially has huge communal graves where people who died within the pest house were buried. London is absolutely full of what we call plague pits, so they might date to the 14th century when the initial outbreak came about, but also the 17th century as well, because demand simply could not keep up for places to bury bodies individually in churchyards. The story of Pest House Close is a story of attempting to manage public health before there was even really an idea of what that could be and how it was that public health worked. In a world before we understand germs, people were still trying their best to look after each other and their community as a whole. People tend to blame the subsequent outbreaks breaks of plague as, a part of a world that is particularly filthy, but that's just not true. It has nothing to do with sanitation conditions. It has to do with people living very, very close together in tight-knit communities. So when we think about Pest House Close, we have to also think about the fact that people really wanted to do what was best for each other, even in really horrifying circumstances. It's really beautiful to see these ideas of community shine through, even in really horrifying times. And it's testament to how much people really do care for each other.